this specific episode and my personal story for finishing the 100-mile race, gaining a little bit of unwanted weight, losing some muscle mass, and kind of where I'm at right after the race. I completely wasn't expecting to hit a wall and experience the dopamine crash that I did. Obviously, it was a super impactful moment and experience for myself and my wife to go out there together and accomplish a goal that I set. So there was a super high moment there of achieving that after months and months of training and hard work. So we knew there was this ultimate high. So I guess I should have expected whatever comes after that, which would be a little bit lower than that high. So when I got home, had nothing to train for. Everything was just back to normal. It was over. Basically didn't even matter at that point, because once you do something, that's great. You can celebrate it for a little bit. You'll hold it with you forever, but what's next? And you're only as good as today and what you are tomorrow. So couldn't look back too long. So definitely hit a real like chemical dopamine crash there, and took me a little bit to dig myself out of that hole, just with motivation to train, motivation in pretty much every area of life. So took that for probably a month or so, and then finally started to get some motivation back to train, set some new goals, do all that type of stuff. So basically in that time period, along with the train up and the race and the post-race blues, gained a little bit of unwanted body fat, and just with the muscle loss through the training, my next goal was to just hit a mini cut and a little bit of a train up in hypertrophy for about an 8-week block to get back on some muscle mass, back on some strength, finish that up. Wasn't really cutting at that point. And then I started my cut. So I'll say my true calorie deficit, energy deficit cut was the last 2 months. I'm going to walk you through basically what you're going to need to do to set yourself up for success for this. And I'll give you my advice. I've done this too many times, I'd like to count. Basically, where you need to start is you need to have a rough idea of your energy intake, where you're leaving off or where you're starting. So for me, and while you're doing this, it's a good idea to weigh yourself every day. So you're gonna have an idea of how much you weigh first thing in the morning, under the same circumstances. So similar time, put the scale in a similar place, wear the same amount of clothes. Don't drink water beforehand, or if you do drink water beforehand, always drink water beforehand. So just try to normalize these variables. So you're gonna weigh yourself, and you don't have to do this, but for the sake of this video and this conversation, do this because it makes things insanely easier. You're gonna download a fitness tracker app. I prefer Chronometer. You're gonna track every piece of food you eat for a week while you're weighing yourself. Ideally, you're still eating the way you were eating before you even have a cut on your mind or cutting calories on your mind. So this should be what you were doing to maintain your weight, or potentially if you were gaining weight, track that. So we're going to track just under normal circumstances, and we're going to take a look at our calories and then our protein, fats, carbs, fiber. Again, I'm not going to get super in depth here. For simplicity's sake, I'm going to tell you what I did and what I recommend people that are learning to do this do. Is take the average calories per day, average protein, average carbs, average fat. You can throw fiber in there if you want. And that's going to just give us a good starting point. So we can assume that energy intake with similar energy expenditure. So your similar runs, your similar workouts, your similar steps per day. And we're going to just take 250 to 500 calories off the top of that. Protein is going to be gram per pound of body weight, if not a little bit more. And then you can fill in carbs and fat. Fat, you don't want to be less than 30% of your total caloric intake for hormonal purposes. So make sure you're still getting enough fat, but basically carbs and fat can be added in whatever your preference is. So got a good idea of where I was at for maintenance calories. Took off maybe 250 off the top. And then basically from here on out, I'm going to stick to that caloric amount. I'm going to focus on steps. I'm going to focus on water intake. I'm going to focus on my sleep because we know sleep impacts hunger hormones, energy levels, everything that kind of goes into being able to both mentally and physically maintain a diet. And we're going to just try to keep stress low. And we're going to just do super basic shit until we start to see body fat drop off. All right. So basically at this point, it's just consistency. That's all that matters. People try to do too much. Eat the same, if not similar foods or few foods every single day. Hit your macros, hit your calories, hit your steps. Make sure you're sleeping, drink your water, and just keep doing that. Don't change your workout routine. Make sure you're lifting so you're maintaining your muscle mass at the very least. I was lucky enough to basically recomp during this cut because I had lost muscle mass during the train up for the ultra. I was able to basically put some muscle back on and lose body fat at the same time, which is usually unheard of for a trained person. And you know what? Maybe that wasn't completely the case, but from my point of view with what was happening with the scale and visually with my body fat percentage, it was pretty dang close. So if it was just maintaining the muscle mass, losing maybe a tiny bit with the body fat, then I'm fine with that too. But So make sure you're lifting, make sure you're still hitting the workouts with intensity. I'm going to advise you to not be going crazy on your runs. I was doing 1 to 2, maybe 3 now runs, so 15 miles per week max, zone 2 stuff, nothing too high intensity. So more or less just being consistent with the basics. That's all that you need to do. At some point, you're going to get into this. You're going to drop some weight initially, and then you're going to probably hit a point where I haven't messed with the calories at all. You're going to hit a point where the scale stops moving, and you're going to be wondering what's happening, what's going on. There's a million reasons for the scale not moving, so I'm not going to get into every single one. But what I'm going to re-emphasize is to just stay the course and be consistent. The weight will come. The body does some funky stuff, holding water weight, GI weight. If you are maybe newer and you're gaining a little bit of muscle mass, that could affect things too. Stuff like that. So don't freak out. Just stay the course. Basically, probably went 6 weeks at this 200 calories lower than my maintenance. And up until the last 4 weeks, I might have dropped another 50 to 100. So like in total, maybe 300 to 400 below maintenance. And it's not even super low yet. And it's been a drastic change. It's just being consistent with those basics. Like I said, make sure you're hitting your steps, make sure you're hitting your protein, make sure you're hitting your calories, and make sure you're sleeping and just doing all those things right. One tiny little secret that you can do or play around with if you are someone that enjoys going out on the weekends or something like that, you could lower your weekly average and then up your weekend average. What's really going to matter here is your total calories at the end of the week for weight loss. For body composition, we're going to want to hit our macros every day too. But if you are someone that likes a little bit of fluctuation on days, what's going to matter is that weekly average. It's not necessarily each day. I've done both. I prefer just hitting them every single day because I don't like those low days. And then my weekends, I'm not really crazy anymore. I don't drink, so don't really have to worry about that very much. But if I do go over, then I'll just adjust for that in my next week. Okay, so I briefly touched on it. I'm going to show a little bit of footage of my lifts for this week. So basically my routine was 4 days of lifting with definitely 1 day of zone 2 running and with the option of another zone 2 day running. So technically 6 days of training, but only 4 days of lifting. And that's just a preference for me right now. That's not completely necessary. You could be doing 2 to 3 days of lifting, total body sessions, as long as you're hitting, personally like to be hitting at least 8 to 10 sets per muscle group to maintain that muscle mass during a cut like this, if not more. So that was my training block. I was running a lower upper. Monday was upper, Tuesday was lower, Wednesday was upper, Thursday was run, Friday was lower. And it's actually still like that. I'm finishing my week 7 of an 8-week block. So nothing fancy, nothing crazy. For basic stuff, biggest things is I'm training between 1 and 3 reps in reserve. So that means I'm coming just 1 to 3 reps shy of failure and true failure. So you have to be training with a level of intensity, in true intensity, not in the sake of weight in this terms, but true energy and intensity too, and with good reps in reserve to be maintaining this muscle mass during a cut. And then my zone 2 days were just because I enjoy running. They don't need to be running. You don't need to be doing cardio to lose moderate amounts of body fat. Biggest thing would be those daily step counts. So I hope I was able to paint a little bit of a picture on what it takes to do a little bit of a mini cut, and kind of just recomp your way back after a race, or after gaining a little bit of unwanted body fat or losing some muscle mass, because it's just bound to happen in life. Things get crazy. We have races we train for, work gets stressful, we're moving. There's a million reasons why we could kind of fall off a little bit. And the biggest thing I wanted to get across to people is just to not panic, do the basics really well, just stay the course, keep doing what you know to be right. If you do reach a true stalling point, then you just readjust and go back to the drawing board. You don't have to do anything crazy. It's just super simple stuff done consistently over time, and you're going to get crazy results. If you are finding your way here after a big race or after a super stressful time in your life, give yourself a little grace. Don't panic. Take the time to set up a system, set up your daily habits, set up a workout routine, and then just stick to it consistently. And do something that's manageable for you. Do something that's sustainable. We don't want to do stuff that's going to just fail off in, 6 to 8 weeks, or even shorter than that for some people. So for this cut, I did what was very reasonable. I could have cut calories way harder and had way better results, much quicker, much better. I'd be leaner right now, but it all comes at a cost. So it comes at less muscle mass, more hormone drops. It's just miserable because food is good and eating less food is not fun. So I don't want to starve myself. I want to set up a system that's for, 2 to 3 months. This is doable. This is a doable energy deficit, and I lose the body fat I want to lose. And then I go back to maintenance, and I go back to training a little bit more for performance. So it's just a matter about finding that balance and something that you can actually stick to. There's no point in developing habits for weight loss or health or fitness that you can't stick with. They're no good. After 8 weeks and you fall off, what was the point of it? So develop those foundational habits, develop the system. But the biggest thing is finding your routine, developing a system, sticking to the basics, and having a plan to execute long term. Because again, this isn't just in short blocks, 3-month blocks. Like, we got to think of the whole year. We have to think of an annual plan. What are our goals? Where do we want to be? How are we going to get there? Just like your finances, just like anything else you do in life, your health and fitness is going to need that same type of structure.